But here is the thing. Even though taking responsibilities off your plate is a fine way to handle stress, it's not the only way. And in fact, I have found a way that I like to call a little bit of the antidote for stress. And it's just a magical tool that you can have in your back pocket that you can use at any time. Welcome to the Love Your Brain podcast, the podcast designed for everyday people who are ready to hop off the negative thought hamster wheel and enjoy a less hostile environment in their own brains. Our brains are where we live our entire lives, and I'm on a mission to help people see that they have everything they need to make it a happier place to be. So join us for this episode of the Love Your Brain podcast. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Love Your Brain podcast, or welcome if you're new. Today we are talking about stress. Something that we all deal with, maybe on a daily basis, maybe not, but at some point in time, all of us feel stressed. And this is an area where the information we have available to combat the feeling of stress is ever evolving. There's always information coming out on how people can handle stress better and how we can manage it better. And I'm so excited to share just some new approaches that I've been doing in working with others, but also in just my own life in dealing with stress. And I found it incredibly effective. So I'm so excited to share it with you today because I venture to guess some of these approaches are not things maybe that would be your first go to when you are encountering a stressful, overwhelmed situation. So let's talk about it. Typically, when someone is feeling stressed, maybe by a lot of things on their plate that they need to get done, typically they go into what I like to call dog paddling energy. And what that is basically this frantic dog paddling, as if you're drowning and trying to get as much done as you possibly can, thinking that maybe if I cross more things off my list, if I get it all done, then this feeling of stress will go away. And it makes sense, right? We think if I can just get it all done, then it will go away. I won't have this feeling anymore. But unfortunately, typically that dog paddling energy just leads to burnout. We completely crash and burn. Maybe it's happens even before you're completely done with all of the things on your list because it's just not feasible. Usually when we're at this state and we're looking at everything that needs to be done, to do it all done quickly and effectively and all at the quality that we really want. And if we try to, it's just too much. That's why we feel overwhelmed. And here's the thing, most of us don't work best in this situation. And so what we end up with is sometimes maybe some things are crossed off our list, but maybe there's a bunch too that we have to go back later and fix, do over, whatever the case is. Because that dog paddling energy just doesn't promote quality results, right? The other approach is one that I really often used to lean on heavily, and that was to try and lighten the load. What I mean by that is typically if someone came to me and said that they were struggling with a lot of stress, we would sit down, we would basically break it down into a list, right? A list of all of the things that you need to get done, all of the things that are burdening you right now. And what we would do is we would try to figure out what we could take off that list. Maybe look at things that didn't need to be done right now. Maybe they were things that you could delegate for someone else to do. Maybe they were things that you realized just weren't important anymore. There were other things that were important and that was no longer a priority. The idea here is that we were just trying to lessen the amount of stressors so that you would feel less stressed. Makes sense. And honestly, in a lot of scenarios, it works mostly fine. But here is the thing. Even though taking responsibilities off your plate is a fine way to handle stress, it's not the only way. And in fact, I have found a way that I like to call a little bit of the antidote for stress. And it's just a magical tool that you can have in your back pocket that you can use at any time. But before I get into that, I want you to think about a list of to-dos because that's usually what it comes down to for people is all of these things that need to get done. Think about maybe the difference between, maybe at one point in your life you had two things that you had to get done and they felt so overwhelming. And then maybe at a different point in your life you had even more on your plate. Maybe triple, double the amount of things on your plate. Maybe you even had more responsibilities, but you managed it just fine. Now, maybe, recently with those two things on your plate, you just felt completely overwhelmed, like you didn't have the energy, you couldn't do it, it was just too much and it was overwhelming. But then you remember back to maybe years ago, you had a period of life where you were managing so many things really, really well. You were running around getting all these things done, and you didn't feel stressed or overwhelmed. And you look at those two different scenarios and you recognize that it wasn't about the amount that was on your plate at the time. That's the key. The key is that it's often not about the amount of things that we have on our plate that's causing us stress. What's happening is what's under the surface, and that's our nervous system. Our nervous system is going to determine whether or not what we have in front of us is manageable or too much. If our nervous system is on overdrive, then even the slightest thing is going to feel completely overwhelming. If our nervous system is settled and calm, we can often handle a whole lot more responsibility, a lot more tasks, and not feel burned out. So, with this understanding that the feeling of being stressed isn't actually about having too many things to accomplish, then we can see that the key here is not about trying to get them done faster or eliminate some of them. It's about the nervous system. And when we really break it down, this feeling of being stressed is actually associated with an underlying feeling of fear. The fear that you won't be able to get it all done and the consequences if you can't get it done. The fear that maybe you don't have what it takes to get it all done. The fear that if you ask for help that no one else will be able to do it as good as you, or maybe there aren't even people qualified to do it. There's a fear that simply you don't have the resources to get it all done. And this fear dialogue that happens when we are stressed is actually what we need to get at. The fear is coming up because our nervous system feels in threat in some way. So instead of focusing on what we can see, that endless to-do list, and tangibly trying to address all those items, instead looking to see how we can find safety in that fear that we're experiencing. And this fear dialogue that happens when we're stressed is actually what we need to get at. That fear is coming up because our nervous system is on high alert in some way. So instead of focusing on what we can see, those endless to-do lists, trying to remove some of them, instead of doing that, we basically are going to ignore that for now. And instead, we're going to look under the surface and address the fear that we're experiencing and find a way to more effectively find safety for our nervous system to get us back to a place of homeostasis where we're actually able to handle more. Get back to a balanced state where we no longer feel in threat so that we can function at our best. So, this dog paddling energy that comes out, we all know it. It's frantic. It's dog paddling in the water, hoping you won't drown, moving chaotically, trying to stay afloat, but in fact, you're just wasting so much energy that you burn out fast. It's not a long term solution. So, what do they say when you're in water for long periods of time and you're trying to stay afloat? Do they say if you're panicked, just dog paddle? No. What do they say instead? They say float. And that is what we're going to work on today. Because floating in our bodies, it's no longer chaotic. It's ease. It's releasing. It's finding safety in our body's ability to naturally keep us above water. And that is where we're going to find our safety in times of stress. And the safety I'm referring to here can quite literally have nothing to do with what's in front of you. You can absolutely find safety in a space, in an exercise that has nothing to do with the stressors that are in front of you. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Because here is the truth of the matter. Our brains are inflating what we think are problems just in case this is a life or death situation. It's how our brains have evolved to keep us alive. And thank you, brain, for doing that. But our brains have been conditioned to look at the problems in front of us like predators. And so it sends our system into this fight or flight mode and really tries to make us efficient for staying alive in that situation, but not necessarily for being super effective. So, recognizing that when we're in these stressed modes, our brains are literally trying to work in caveman mode to keep us alive. And that's why they're making everything seem like it has to get done right now, even though that's not always the truth. And that's something we can find safety in, even with a million things that are undone. Now, finding safety can actually look so many different ways. For you, maybe it could be simply making a list of all the ways that you are safe right now. Making a list of all the things that you find safety in. Things like, I have a home, I have a roof over my head. That makes me feel safe. My basic needs are provided for. I have everything that I need right now to survive. I have people that love me. I have people that support me. All of those things can help your body to start recognizing, oh, wait, I am safe. I am okay. Getting that nervous system back down to homeostasis. Or maybe you're someone that really enjoys things like meditation. There are tons of free meditations online that will give you that feeling of safety. They'll guide you through an exercise that will help you slowly get your nervous system back to homeostasis, help you to slow down, help you to relax, and get to that feeling of safety. Or maybe for you, the best thing to do is to get out of where you're at, maybe get outside, feel the grass, get into your physical body a bit, going for a walk, feeling the bark on the trees, smelling the grass. There's an exercise I often recommend to people where you use your five senses. And you use your five senses basically to get back into your physical body, out of your mind and into your body. And in this exercise, you find five things you can see, and you find those five things and you examine them in detail. You look at their color and their texture and how shiny or dull they are. You look at all of their attributes and you really observe them with your sight. And the next thing is you find four things you can touch. And again, you do the same exercise. You look at those four things and you touch them with your hand. Are they smooth? Are they rough? Are they fuzzy? You really take a moment to let your senses experience all of the feelings of touch. And then next, you find three things that you can hear. What are those sounds like? What are the tones? What are the pitches? Where are those sounds coming from? You really allow your senses to take in that experience. Then next, you find two things that you can smell. Is it a good smell? Is it a bad smell? Is it pungent? Is it light and airy? Really taking in the senses. And then last but not least, one thing that you can taste. Really getting into that sense of, is it sweet? Is it sour? Is it crunchy? Is it salty? Really, really experiencing it with your body and all five of your senses. And when you're done doing those five things, your body is really, really starting to settle down into a feeling of safety. So those are simply just three, but truly there are millions of ways you can get to the same place. Just find the exercise that's right for you. But the idea here is that you are recognizing that you feel stressed. And instead of starting to dog paddle and trying to get as much done as you can, or even trying to take things off of your list, you're focusing instead of simply transitioning your body and your brain into a place of safety. Finding the space where you can symbolically just float instead of chaotically trying to move progress forward. And although I don't have an exact percentage, I will say when you make progress from a state of safety instead of this chaotic fear that we usually are working in when we're stressed, your accuracy is wildly better. We can get things done a lot better when we are working from a place of safety and of calm than when we are trying to frantically cross things off to our list in this dog paddling energy. So, next time you are feeling stressed and overwhelmed, instead of looking at your list and trying to figure out how in the world am I going to get things off of my list, instead just putting a pause on the list altogether, stepping back, and figuring out how you can create safety for your brain, for your body. How can you help your nervous system to settle down and transition from that dog paddling energy to floating? It's a total game changer, I promise. Safety is your magic antidote, and you can, in fact, create it for yourself anytime, anywhere. Have a great one, guys. I hope you found something helpful here today on the Love Your Brain podcast. Maybe a laugh or a feeling of validation, or maybe just a few moments to have company while you do your laundry. Whatever you take from it, I hope you enjoyed your time and leave feeling empowered to be more you every day. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on the next episode, and leave a review. I'd love to hear what you think. Have a great one.